AITA for exposing my wife's lies after she mocked me for only paying the bills. My name is Daniel. I'm 48, and I've been married to Marissa for 21 years. We have 2 kids, Caleb, who just started college, and Nora, who is 16 and still leaves half-finished iced coffees in the cup holder of my truck like it's her personal refrigerator. I'm not flashy. I don't need applause for mowing the lawn or paying the electric bill. I've never been the kind of man who posts long speeches online about sacrifice. For most of my marriage, I believed loving your family meant carrying what needed to be carried and not making a big production out of it. The problem was that somewhere along the way, Marissa stopped seeing what I carried. Then she started acting like I deserved to be mocked for carrying it. When Marissa and I first got married, we were normal. Not perfect, not rich, not dramatic. We argued about dumb things like whose turn it was to unload the dishwasher, whether the thermostat should be set at 68 or 72, and why I kept putting the cereal box back with one handful of cereal left in it. We bought a modest house with a basketball hoop near the garage and an older truck in the driveway. We had Caleb first, then Nora. We clipped coupons for diapers, bought used furniture, and celebrated when we finally replaced the carpet in the living room after years of pretending the stain near the hallway wasn't that noticeable. Back then, Marissa and I felt like a team. She handled certain bills. I handled others. We had a budget spreadsheet that wasn't pretty, but it worked. We didn't have much extra, but we made it stretch. If the kids needed school supplies, we figured it out. If the mortgage felt tight, I picked up overtime. If Marissa had a rough month, I covered more. If I got home late, she saved me a plate. That was marriage to me. Uneven seasons happen. One person carries a little more, then the other catches up. I believe that. I didn't realize our uneven season had become a permanent arrangement until I was already used to being tired. The first big shift happened when Marissa quit her job after a fight with her manager. She came home furious, dropped her purse on the kitchen island, and said, "I'm done. I'm not letting some woman half my age talk to me like that." I didn't tell her she was wrong. I didn't tell her to go back. I knew she was embarrassed and angry, so I said, "Okay, we'll figure it out." She said she only needed a few weeks to breathe. A few weeks turned into 6 months. During those 6 months, I worked overtime whenever I could. I ate a lot of reheated leftovers at 10:30 at night, standing at the counter because if I sat down too long, I might not get back up. The kids were younger then, and I told myself they didn't need to know why I missed some dinners or why I fell asleep on the couch before the movie started. Marissa thanked me at first. Then the thanking stopped. One night, after I came home late and opened the microwave to find a plate covered in plastic wrap, she walked in and said, "You know, you don't have to act like a hero every time you work late." I stared at her for a second, thinking I had missed something. "I'm not acting like anything," I said. "I'm just eating dinner." She rolled her eyes. "I'm just saying. Providing is what husbands do." I let it go. That became my talent, apparently. Letting things go. When the escrow shortage notice came in and our mortgage payment jumped, I let it go. When Marissa's credit card balance got high enough that the minimum payment barely touched the interest, I let it go. When she said, "Can you just help this one time?" I got behind because I was trying to handle things for my mom. I paid it off and let it go. The second time I paid off her credit cards, I didn't let it go as easily. I remember sitting at the kitchen table with the laptop open, the blue glow making the room feel colder than it was. Marissa stood by the sink with her arms folded. "Some of this is online shopping," I said carefully. "And there are transfers to Tessa." Tessa is Marissa's younger sister. Loud, sarcastic, always broke in a way that somehow became everyone else's emergency. Marissa's face tightened. She needed help. "I understand helping," I said. "But we need to talk before thousands of dollars end up on credit cards." She gave this short laugh, like I was being dramatic. "You always make money sound like a weapon." "I'm not using it as a weapon. I'm trying to keep us from drowning." "We're not drowning. We are when I'm the only one bailing water." She looked at me like I had said something unforgivable. After that, the story started changing. Not in one big, obvious way. It changed in little comments. If I asked whether a purchase was necessary, she said, "Here we go. Budget cop is back." If I reminded her about Caleb's tuition deadline, she said, "You care more about accounts than people." If I looked tired after working a weekend shift, she said, "Nobody asked you to martyr yourself." The worst one was always the same. "That's what husbands are supposed to do." She said it when I covered the mortgage. She said it when I repaired the dishwasher myself because calling someone cost too much. She said it when I paid the overdue balance on her credit card. She said it when I took an extra shift after her mother, Linda, got a hospital bill that insurance only partially covered. Linda's bill was not small. There had been a denial letter, then a revised claim, then a payment arrangement with the hospital billing office. Marissa cried when she showed it to me. My parents can't handle this, she said. Dad won't even open the mail. Mom is scared. I looked at the amount and felt my stomach drop. We can't pay all of this at once, I said. I know, she whispered. But we can help, right? So I helped. I picked up weekends. I skipped replacing the tires on my truck for 3 months longer than I should have. I stopped buying lunch at work. I told myself it was family. Linda hugged me once after that and said, "Thank you for helping us." Before I could answer, Marissa stepped in and said, "It came from the household account, Mom. We all helped." That bothered me, but I swallowed it. Then it became family money. Anytime my overtime paid for something uncomfortable, it magically became family money. Linda's hospital balance was family money. Tessa's emergency car repair was family money. The credit card payoff was family money. The late fees, the transfer fees, the minimum payments Marissa hid until they turned into bigger problems were all family money. But when I asked to slow down spending, suddenly it was my money obsession. The kids started noticing the tension, but not the truth. Caleb was the first one to repeat it. He was home for a weekend before college started, sitting at the table with his laptop open to his tuition portal. I reminded him we needed to submit a form by Monday. He sighed and said, "Mom said you were just mad about tuition again." That hit me harder than it should have. "I'm not mad about tuition," I said. "I'm making sure it gets paid." "You always sound mad when money comes up." I wanted to tell him that money came up because bills came up, because deadlines came up, because people in this house treated payment dates like weather, just something that happened outside their control. Instead, I said, "I'm trying to keep things organized." He shrugged, but he didn't look convinced. Nora was quieter. She saw more than she said. One night after her school event, where I had arrived late in work boots and stood in the back still smelling faintly like machine oil, she climbed into my truck and stared out the windshield. "You look tired," she said. "I was fine." "You're always fine." I glanced at her. She twisted the sleeve of her hoodie around her hand. "Mom said you only care about the budget." I gripped the steering wheel and made myself breathe. "What do you think?" I asked. "I don't know," she said softly. "You're gone a lot." There are sentences your kids say that don't sound cruel, but still leave a mark. I didn't blame them. They were hearing the story from the person who was home more, the person who turned every financial boundary into proof that I was cold. I kept quiet because I didn't want to make their mother look bad. I didn't understand that silence was letting her make me look worse. The real crack came a few weeks before that Sunday dinner. I was checking Caleb's college fund after paying part of his first semester bill. I logged into the 529 account expecting to confirm the balance and schedule the next payment. Instead, I saw a withdrawal I didn't recognize. It wasn't huge enough to destroy everything, but it was big enough to matter. Big enough that replacing it would mean more overtime, more delays, more juggling. The transfer label was vague. Temporary family help. I sat there staring at the screen, feeling that old familiar pressure behind my eyes. Marissa was in the kitchen rinsing a coffee mug. "Marissa," I called. "What?" I turned the laptop toward her when she came in. "Why is there a withdrawal from the 529 account?" She barely looked at it. "I don't know," she said. "You don't know? Maybe it was an automatic transfer issue. Or market movement. You know those accounts go up and down. That's not market movement. It says withdrawal." She reached over and closed the laptop halfway, like the screen itself was being rude. "Daniel, I don't have the energy for one of your investigations tonight." "One of my investigations?" "You always panic." I watched her face. She didn't look confused. She didn't look surprised. She looked irritated that I had noticed. That was my first real suspicion. Not the withdrawal. Her tone. Later that night, her phone lit up on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs. I wasn't snooping. I was putting a glass in the sink, and the screen flashed bright enough to catch my eye. It was from Tessa. "Don't worry. He'll refill it like he always does." I stood there with my hand still on the faucet handle. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the dryer thumping in the laundry room. I read the message 3 times, even though it didn't change. He'll refill it like he always does. That sentence did something to me. It didn't make me explode. It made me still. For years, I had been telling myself these were emergencies. Miscommunications. Stress. Bad timing. Family obligations. But that text sounded like a system. The next day, I started checking records. Not to punish anyone. Not at first. I needed to know whether I was crazy. I printed bank statements after everyone went to bed. I searched old emails. I found hospital billing confirmations, credit card payoff PDFs, lender notices, screenshots Marissa had sent me when she needed just this one thing handled. I found a lender email connected to Tessa's overdue car payments. I found a transfer from one of our joint accounts with a memo that said, "Family help," sent 2 days before the 529 withdrawal. Then I found the family group chat. I wasn't in the main one. There was the polite group chat I knew about, the one with birthday plans and photos of Linda's dog wearing sweaters. Then there was another one Marissa had accidentally synced to the tablet Nora used sometimes. I saw my name. Marissa, Daniel is in budget cop mode again. Tessa, LOL, tell Mr. Spreadsheet to relax. Marissa, he watches every dollar like I'm a child. Aunt Paula, some men get weird when they're the provider. Tessa, provider? Please. He acts like he invented paying bills. Then a message from Marissa that made me sit back in the chair. If Daniel ever tries to leave, I'll make sure he keeps paying anyway. There were laughing emojis after that. Not from everyone, but enough. I sat in my little home office with the printer still warm beside me, looking at those messages like they belonged to someone else's life. I thought about every night I had come home late and tried not to complain. Every bill I had paid quietly. Every time I had kept Marissa's choices from becoming public because I thought protecting her dignity protected the family. All those years, she had been building a different version of me. Cheap, controlling, cold, obsessed with money, emotionally absent. And maybe the worst part was that I had helped her do it by never defending myself. I called Ellen, a financial advisor I had met years earlier through work, and asked if she could look over some things. Her office was calm in a way that made me feel embarrassed, like my life had brought mud onto a clean floor. She spread out the statements, asked careful questions, and never once made a dramatic face. After almost an hour, she said, "Daniel, generosity is one thing. Being financially exposed without boundaries is another. I'm not trying to abandon my family," I said. "Separate does not mean abandon," she said. "It means protect." She showed me how vulnerable I was. Joint credit, shared accounts, informal payments, no written agreements, a pattern of covering debts that were not mine alone. She wasn't cold about it. She was practical. "Love doesn't require unlimited liability," she said. That sentence stayed with me. A few days later, I met Mr. Rhodes, an attorney. His office smelled like coffee and paper. He listened more than he talked. I brought the folder, though at that point it was still more of a pile. He flipped through the documents, made notes on a yellow legal pad, and said, "Do not empty accounts. Do not threaten. Do not make emotional financial decisions. Make documented ones." "I don't want to hurt my kids," I said. "Then stay steady," he said. "Support your children. Meet your legal obligations. But stop making private promises under pressure. Communicate in writing. Separate properly." He told me what to document, what not to touch, and how to move forward without turning myself into the villain Marissa had already been describing. I opened a separate personal account for future payroll deposits, but I kept paying household bills while I got advice. I didn't drain anything. I didn't hide anything. I didn't make threats. I also didn't confront Marissa yet. That might sound strange, but by then I understood something. If I confronted her privately, she would twist it privately. If I came at her angry, she would use my anger as proof. If I said too much too soon, she would warn Tessa, clean up messages, and tell the kids I had lost my mind over money again. So I waited. I told myself that if Marissa stopped humiliating me, if she admitted what happened and agreed to counseling and financial boundaries, I would handle it privately. Then Sunday dinner came. Sunday dinners with Marissa's family had a rhythm. Too many people, too little space, Costco salad in a plastic container, roasted chicken, casserole dishes, paper napkins, folding chairs pulled from the garage. Linda always asked if we had enough ice. Glenn mostly sat quietly and nodded at whatever his daughters said. Tessa arrived late, carried nothing, and made comments like she was being paid by the insult. That afternoon, Marissa moved around the kitchen performing warmth for everyone else. Daniel, she said while setting serving spoons beside the stove, don't start any budget talk tonight. Let people enjoy dinner. I looked up from the drawer where I was putting away napkins. I wasn't planning to start anything. She gave me a thin smile. You never plan to. You just do. Caleb had come home that weekend and was helping Nora set plates. He wouldn't look at me for long. Nora kept glancing between us like she could feel the air changing. In the kitchen island drawer, under a stack of takeout menus and old batteries, was the folder. I had put it there that morning. Not because I wanted to use it. Because I was done being unprepared. Dinner started normal enough. Aunt Paula talked about a neighbor's new fence. Linda complained about the price of prescriptions. Tessa made a joke about Caleb needing to enjoy college before the loans own him forever, and Marissa laughed too loudly. I mostly stayed quiet. Then Glenn asked me how work was going. Before I could answer, Marissa said, busy. Daniel loves being busy. Gives him something to sigh about when he gets home. There was a little awkward laughter. I smiled without showing teeth. Work is work. Tessa leaned back in her chair. You always look like you're about to audit the dinner table. Tessa, Linda said weakly, but she was smiling. Marissa waved a hand. He's fine. He knows we're joking. I looked at my plate. Then Marissa kept going. He acts like he carried this family on his back, but honestly, that's what husbands are supposed to do. The room shifted. Forks slowed. Caleb stared down at his napkin. Nora's face went tight. I could have let it go. I almost did. Marissa took a sip of water and added, if I praised him every time he paid a bill, we'd be clapping every month like he was a toddler. That got a bigger laugh, mostly from Tessa and Aunt Paula. Glenn gave a small, uncomfortable chuckle and looked away. I felt heat climb up my neck, but I stayed still. Then Tessa leaned toward Marissa and whispered, not quietly enough, at least he's useful. Marissa laughed. Not a shocked laugh. Not an embarrassed laugh. A real one. And something in me finally separated. I didn't yell. I didn't slam my fist on the table. I wiped my mouth with a paper napkin, stood up, and walked to the kitchen island. Marissa frowned. Where are you going? I opened the drawer and took out the manila folder. Nobody spoke when I came back. I placed it on the table beside the casserole dish. You're right, I said. Paying bills doesn't make me a hero. Marissa's eyes narrowed. Daniel. But letting you call my sacrifices nothing while I quietly covered your mistakes for years makes me a fool. And I'm done being that. The silence was immediate and heavy. Tessa scoffed. Wow. So now you're keeping score. I looked at her. No. I started keeping records. Marissa pushed her chair back slightly. You're really going to do this in front of everyone? You did this in front of everyone, I said. I'm correcting it in front of everyone. Her face flushed. Correcting what? The story. I opened the folder. My hands were shaking, but my voice didn't. That surprised me. I pulled out the first document. This is the payoff confirmation for Marissa's credit card debt from 4 years ago. This is the second payoff confirmation from 2 years ago. Different card. Higher balance. Marissa's mouth opened. That was household spending. Some of it was, I said. A lot of it was transfers to Tessa, online shopping, and minimum payments you didn't tell me about until the interest got out of control. Tessa snapped. Don't bring me into your marriage. You brought me into your finances, I said. Linda looked confused. What is he talking about? I pulled out another page. This is the email from the hospital billing office confirming the payment arrangement for your balance after insurance denied part of the claim. Linda's face changed. Marissa told us that came from the household account, she said. It did, Marissa said quickly. That's what I said. I looked at Linda. It came from overtime checks. Weekend shifts. The household account didn't have extra money sitting around for that. I paid it down because you needed help and I didn't want you scared. Linda put a hand over her mouth. Glenn finally looked directly at Marissa. I pulled out the lender email next. This is the auto finance warning about Tessa's overdue car payment. This is the transfer 2 days later labeled temporary family help. This is the withdrawal from Caleb and Nora's 529 account. Caleb's head came up. What, he said. Nora whispered, Mom. Marissa stood halfway. Daniel, stop. I looked at Caleb first because he deserved that much. I noticed the withdrawal after your tuition payment. Your mother told me it might be market movement or an automatic transfer issue. It wasn't. Tessa's voice went sharp. You're acting like you saved my life. It was a car payment. It was money from my kids' college fund, I said. The whole table went still. Aunt Paula looked from Tessa to Marissa. Is that true? Marissa's face hardened. It was temporary. I was going to put it back. No, I said. You expected me to put it back. She pointed at the folder. This is disgusting. You're embarrassing me. No, I said. You embarrassed me for years. I just brought dates and numbers. Marissa laughed once, but there was no humor in it. You always make money sound like a weapon. You used my silence as a weapon, I said. You told them I was controlling. Cheap. Cold. You told the kids I only cared about the budget. Meanwhile, I was working weekends to cover problems you kept hiding. Caleb stared at the table. Nora had tears in her eyes, and that nearly broke me. I pulled out the screenshots last. I hadn't planned to use them unless she pushed. She had pushed. I set them down. Daniel is in budget cop mode again, I read. Tell Mr. Spreadsheet to relax. He watches every dollar like I'm a child. Marissa's voice cracked with anger. You printed private messages? You wrote public lies about me in a family chat. Tessa grabbed one of the pages and then dropped it like it burned her. This is insane. I read the last message, slower. If Daniel ever tries to leave, I'll make sure he keeps paying anyway. No one laughed that time. Glenn leaned back in his chair like the air had left him. Marissa, he said quietly, is this true? Marissa didn't answer. She looked at her mother, then at Caleb, then at me. It wasn't like that, she said. That's not an answer, Glenn said. For once, Marissa had no clean way to twist the room. Linda started crying. Not loudly, just silently, with her lips pressed together. Daniel, she said, I didn't know. I know, I said. And I meant it. Linda had benefited, but she hadn't invented the lie. Glenn had avoided conflict, which was its own kind of harm, but he hadn't been the architect. Tessa had known more than enough. Marissa sat back down slowly, her face pale and furious. I closed the folder. I'm going to be clear, I said. All financial support to your extended family ends immediately. I will support my children. I will meet my legal obligations. I will not keep funding adults who laugh at me. Tessa threw her napkin on the table. Unbelievable. What's unbelievable, I said, is that you whispered I was useful while sitting at a table I helped keep full. She looked away first. Marissa said, you can't just decide that. I'm not asking for permission to stop being used, I said. From this point forward, joint spending gets handled through legal advice. I'm not signing, covering, transferring, or paying anything else without written agreement. Caleb looked scared. Dad, are you leaving? That one hurt. I softened my voice. I'm not leaving you or your sister. Marissa seized on that. So you're breaking up the family now? In front of the kids? I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel the need to soften the truth for her. You broke trust, I said. I'm ending the lie. Then I picked up the folder. Nobody tried to stop me when I walked out. The night air felt colder than it should have. My phone started buzzing before I reached the truck. Calls. Texts. Marissa. Tessa. Aunt Paula. I turned the screen face down on the passenger seat. I drove to Grant's house. Grant has been my best friend for years, and he had told me more than once. Being patient isn't the same as being respected. I used to tell him he didn't understand marriage. Maybe he understood boundaries better than I did. When I pulled into his driveway, I didn't go inside right away. I sat in the truck for 10 minutes with the headlights shining on his garage door, my hands shaking so badly I couldn't get the key out of the ignition at first. I didn't feel powerful. I didn't feel victorious. I felt like someone had cut ropes off me and left the marks behind. Grant opened the front door before I knocked. He looked at my face and said, "Spare room's ready." That was all. There were clean sheets on the bed and a phone charger on the nightstand. I sat on the edge of the mattress and finally looked at my phone. Marissa had sent 12 messages. I can't believe you humiliated me like that. You twisted everything. You're going to regret doing this to the kids. Call me right now. Tessa had left a voicemail I didn't play. Linda had sent one text. I didn't know it was your overtime. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect. It didn't fix anything. But it was the first time someone in that family acknowledged the truth without asking me to pay for it. The next morning, I met Mr. Rhodes again. I told him, I'm not trying to punish her. I'm trying to stop the bleeding. He nodded. Then we do this carefully. I began the legal separation process. I changed my direct deposit going forward. I froze unnecessary joint credit use through proper channels. I documented every household payment. I kept paying what needed to be paid for the house and the kids. I didn't abandon responsibilities. I just stopped accepting surprise debts as love notes. Marissa tried to call the folder financial abuse. The problem was that her own messages, the withdrawals, and the transfers made that story harder to sell. Mr. Rhodes told me not to argue with her over the phone, so I didn't. I communicated in writing. Short, calm, boring. That bothered her more than yelling would have. She wanted a fight she could screenshot. I gave her receipts and legal emails. The conversations with my kids were harder than anything that happened at the dinner table. I met Caleb at a coffee shop near campus. He came in wearing a hoodie and carrying a backpack that looked too heavy. For a few minutes, we talked about classes like nothing had happened. Then he said, "Mom told me you were just mad about tuition." I looked down at my coffee. I was worried about tuition, not mad at you. He nodded, jaw tight. "I called you cheap," he said. "Back in August." I remember. "I didn't know that's why you were working weekends." I wanted to make it easy for him, but easy lies were part of how we got there. "I should have explained more," I said. "I stayed quiet because I thought it protected you and Nora from adult problems. I didn't realize it also left you with only one version of me." His eyes went red, but he didn't cry. "I thought you missed stuff because you didn't care," he said. "I missed too much because I was trying to keep the floor under your feet," I said. "That doesn't make every choice I made right. But I need you to know I was trying." He wiped at his face quickly and looked out the window. "I'm sorry," he said. I reached across the table and squeezed his shoulder. "We'll figure out us. You don't have to fix your mother and me." With Nora, it happened on the front porch. She came out wearing an oversized hoodie, her sleeves pulled over her hands. She sat beside me and stared at the driveway. "I heard Mom say you only cared about the budget," she said. "I know. You looked so tired all the time." I was. I didn't know what was true. That broke my heart in a quieter way. "You don't have to choose sides to love both parents," I told her. "But you do deserve the truth." She leaned against my shoulder like she used to when she was little. "Are you going to disappear?" she asked. "No," I said immediately. "I'm not disappearing." And I meant that more than anything else. The fallout with Marissa's family was awkward and slow, not dramatic like people imagine. Nobody gave a grand apology at first. The family group chat went quiet. Aunt Paula stopped sending little laughing reactions. Glenn called once and said, "I should have said something sooner," which was probably the closest he could get to admitting he had known enough to be uncomfortable. Tessa left angry voicemails accusing me of ruining her reputation. I deleted them after saving copies for my attorney. She had to handle her own car payments after that. From what Caleb heard through Nora, that did not go smoothly. Linda texted me again a week later. "I'm sorry I let Marissa explain everything for everyone. Thank you for helping me when I was sick." I stared at that message for a long time before answering. "You're welcome. I hope you're doing better." That was all I had in me. Marissa changed tactics every few days. First she was furious. Then she was hurt. Then she said I had blindsided her. Then she said I was abandoning the family. Then she wanted to talk about counseling, but only if I agreed not to weaponize paperwork. I told her counseling could happen, but financial separation was still moving forward. She hated that. For years, she had counted on my fear of looking cruel. She knew I would pay the bill rather than let the power get shut off. I would cover the debt rather than let the kids feel instability. I would stay quiet rather than embarrass her. She mistook that for endless permission. I still paid the mortgage through the proper process. I still made sure Nora had what she needed for school. I still helped Caleb with tuition in the way I had promised him. I kept showing up. The difference was that I stopped paying for Marissa's image. I stopped covering Tessa's emergencies. I stopped letting family comes first mean Daniel comes last. I stopped answering late-night texts designed to panic me into moving money before I could think. A few months after that dinner, I stood in the kitchen early one morning making coffee. The house was quiet. The kind of quiet that used to make me anxious because I was waiting for the next bill, the next accusation, the next emergency with someone else's name attached to it. My phone was on the counter. No buzzing. No angry messages. No, "Can you just help this one time?" I poured coffee into a mug and looked around at the same cabinets, the same worn spot near the stove, the same stack of mail by the toaster. Nothing looked dramatically different. But I felt different. Not healed. Not triumphant. Just present. I still believe in taking care of family. I still believe in showing up, paying what you owe, helping when people are truly in trouble, and doing the hard things nobody claps for. I just don't believe family gets to destroy you and call it love. And I don't believe sacrifice should require one person to disappear so everyone else can stay comfortable. Marissa used to say paying bills was the bare minimum. Maybe she was right about one thing. Paying bills didn't make me a hero. But telling the truth saved me from spending the rest of my life as the villain in a story my own money had been funding. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.